Okay, boo. All right, people, we are live. This is your boy Sub coming back at y'all. I have a special guest for you guys. This brother has not been on my channel for a while. This is my homeboy Sean from the Tuskegee University. Been knowing this brother for well over 2 decades. We did ministry together back in the days. Sean is I call him a genius, real intelligent brother. You about to see why. Um, Sean has over a decade of IT recruiting experience. He has been in this field of study for, I'll combined, I would say probably about 15 years altogether. He started about 5 years before I did. And I've been going for about 10 years or 11 years myself. So that just goes to show you. The reason I brought Sean here today was for a very special reason. Sean, as an IT recruiter, has a keen understanding of what companies are looking for in the job market. So, uh, without further ado, I'm gonna let the brother go ahead and say a few words. What's up, bro?
What's going on, man? Good to hear from you. Good to
Yeah,
hear
man.
from you, man. Yeah, that's a lot to live up to. Jingle, all that kind of stuff. I don't know about all that, man, but it's good to talk to you, though.
Well, yeah. I work in IT, bro. I know smart people. I know a lot of smart people. Sean is very smart. I call him all the time, bro. What's up, man? You supposed to be a millionaire, bro. I try to encourage him. This brother's real smart, sharp brother. Let me start first by talking about the job market. The name of this video is "Why College Degrees Are Overrated." Um, so we've talked about this a few times about college education, and
Yeah.
what would you say is the importance of a degree right now? Is it necessary for me to enter into IT and make a nice salary doing IT?
In IT specifically, no, not at all. Now, you want to, what in IT do you want to do, right? There are certain low level IT positions that will require some certification. But there are, in all of my years of recruiting and managing teams of recruiters and talking to hundreds and hundreds of employers, interviewing thousands of candidates, all of that, I can count on two hands how many times an employer has said to me, "We require a college degree." And in fact, of those times that an employer required a college degree, I've most of those times I've turned them down and told them I don't want to put my team. We don't want to work on your opportunity. In other words, we're not willing to do the work to find your opportunity because that is only going to frustrate our search because the bulk of the most talented people in IT don't have a degree, really limiting the pool at which we can pull from. And so yeah, that's an answer to your question. I would say the short answer is no, you don't need one if you want a lot of money in IT. The other question is, what do you mean by a lot of money, right? So typically people consider a lot of money starting. I think it's relative. It just depends on what you're looking for. But to go into the highest paying industries in this country, not college.
Hey, Sean, you chopping up a little bit. Your phone, you might not have enough bars. Can you hear me?
Lose you there?
Yeah, your bars are going in and out. But we got a brother that says it depends on what field you're trying to get into. In the education field, most times you need an associate's, bachelor's, or a master's degree. Yeah, if you're trying to get into, we're talking about specifically IT. Education. Most black people have degree. Most of degrees that black people have are in education, which is the
Did you
lowest
hear
rung.
anything I said?
Yeah, we heard most of what you said. We did. So that's the
So
lowest rung economically when you're talking about a degree is education. Outside, of course, psychology, sociology, criminal justice. These are the degrees that black people tend to want to get, but they don't pay as much. And I'm of the mindset go where the money is. No, you good, Spacely. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Sean. Did you have some more stuff you want to say?
No, I mean, look, I mean, if the question is, what do you want to do with your time? I think in our society, we've set the standard at, hey, you get out of high school, you go spend 4 to 5 to 6 years in post education to prepare you for a career. But nobody's really thinking about, okay, what do I really, really want to do? And at that age, do you really know and understand what you want to do? You haven't even been exposed to it very much yet for the large majority of people, especially if you haven't had internships and all kinds of kind of career nurturing insight along the way. You don't really even know. So you pick something out of the air, you go spend 4 or 5 years and a ton of money, okay? A ton of money. Um, Investing in something that really we just do because we think that's what we're supposed to do and it's going to better our chances of getting a good career. And then we come out, we get a job at a place that we don't really know about or care about, and then you work a bunch of years doing something you're not passionate about, and you make some money, but it's not the kind of money you thought you were going to make. And oh, by the way, you got these hundreds of dollars in student loans that you got to pay off every single month, and otherwise it affects your credit and your ability to survive and thrive in the world, and so it becomes a burden. So I think we got to reevaluate all of this. And I'm actually, one of the silver linings about this whole COVID crisis is it's going to force people to rethink about education. When we think about education, back in the day, our parents and grandparents, when they said, you got to get your education, the mind is a terrible thing to waste, they were talking about schooling, right? Going to a school, a place to be educated, because that's where the information was. Now, with the advent of the information age and the internet, information is everywhere. Information is all over the place, and it is more accessible and easily accessible everywhere online. And so now, when you talk about education, it should not be automatically equated with schooling, going to a physical location to get some information. So, if you want to be educated in a particular area, what are you waiting for? The information's out there in a myriad of different ways and sources and resources, right? Um, Free and some of it paid, right? But the reality is, why are we relying on the one source of information that we've been relying on for many, 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 many years, that is proving time over time not to be worth what it used to be worth at some point in time?
Oh,
That's
let,
the
let
money.
me let me slice a little something real quick. So, okay, I agree with that. So, one of the points someone will make in the case of education is over the course of your lifetime, you will make more money educated than you will. When I say educated, I mean with a traditional institutional degree
Sure,
than the average person that doesn't have it.
sure,
Um, I unpack that to say this. First of all, you're talking about the collective of all of black people. I mean, all of Americans.
right.
If you go and look at the black community that doesn't have resources, that doesn't have culturally, we don't align with certain things. I'm willing to bet that those numbers are actually more closer related when you start talking about a college educated versus high school diploma. I don't think it's this big, huge gap. I don't. And if you take into account student loan debt and you take into account what happens with that student loan debt with interest, and you take interest, let's say you borrow 150, $200,000 to get an education, let's just say 5% interest. That completely sucks up over 40 years any wealth that you would have generated from being able to get, because you drawing interest on this loan. So you're talking about just at 4% over
Yeah,
40 years, you're going to suck up most of what you think that gap creates. But what they deceptively tell you is, you know what? Look at what you're going to make gross over your lifetime versus someone. And that's a marketing ploy. And I
yeah,
think one of the biggest ways we notice is look at the average net worth of an average black woman who is the most educated. The most educated demographic in this country has the lowest net worth. So what does
hmm
that tell you? Go ahead,
yeah.
Sean.
Well, I think anytime you look at those data that talk about how much you can make over your lifetime and compare it to people who don't have college educations and things like that, you're not really comparing apples to apples. To your point, you're taking an entire population. What you really need to be comparing, and I don't know that there are studies about this, are the people who are in professional positions, right, or high paying positions, how many of them have college degrees versus how many of them didn't have college degrees and are at those things. And you can start doing some analysis around there. But just to compare to the whole general population, not a fair comparison. You can't look at someone who's flipping burgers. You can't look at that data and say, well, that person is in that position because they didn't go to college, right? It's just not the same. It's not the same thing. Although there is some correlation between, for sure. There's a certain level that you will exist below if you do not have skills. Okay, and let me be very clear about that. If you don't have skills, so what I'm not saying is don't be schooled at a higher the institution of higher learning and also don't get skills. No, you make money in this economy by providing value to a corporation or to people or to whomever by providing value to them, right? And one of the ways that you provide value is having some kind of skill or knowledge that can be leveraged to the point that's going to add that the type of value. If you don't have any skills, then you are reduced to doing jobs in this economy that require no skills. The kind of jobs where they have a poster up in front of your eyes that tell you what to do next. First, take out the hamburger buns, then put on some ketchup. Then, that's the kind of job you're going to be reduced to because you don't have skills that are of value to the economy. So what I'm saying is you have to get skills and you have to get knowledge and insight, and that skills, this new skill set that you have, in some way has to be validated and verified, right? So you do that by getting either some sort of certificate or certification or whatever, taking a program that says, yes, I get the stamp of approval that I know this stuff. The other way that you can do that in lieu of certifications is experience, right? If you get experience, you happen to fall into an area that provides you a certain amount of experience, then your resume, your experiential resume certifies you, right, to be able to do a job that adds value and that companies are willing to pay a lot of money for. So if you don't, I'm not saying don't go to school and don't have anything to offer. That's not my point. My point is, if you're not going to go to school, develop a plan to acquire some very specific set of skills that are valuable in the market that you can employ to make a lot of money over the lifetime and not have to pay back an institution. Now, if you want to go to college for some kind of social experience and you want to learn more about this and that, hey, you can do that. If you got money to do that,
I mean, can't you get that same bang for your buck at a community college? You can move, you can go to a community college. Your tuition is $2,000 a semester, versus people.
could.
One brother said go to a smaller college, but I'm being honest with you. I went to Tuskegee. You look, man. You talking six figures for a Tuskegee education,
Right?
not let alone an education at. I would rather go to a community college. That's just me. I just think there's better bang for your buck. And I just think, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard it said that okay, you can get in an IT and you can get a job with a high school diploma or certification or even some certificate or associates or something from a little community college, but you will not get into management. Management, we're talking 150 or more. You're not going to get those managerial positions in IT with just a associates or some certifications. What's been your experience with 15 years in IT? Because my experience has been that's bull, but I want to hear it from somebody else who's probably more qualified than everybody that's on this platform saying that you can, that you
Yeah,
need that.
yeah. So the reality is management. You got to understand, like when you have a company that's going to put a glass ceiling over you because you don't have a degree and say you're not eligible to manage because you don't have a degree. You got to evaluate the type of company you're working for. That's probably not a company you want to remain in because they're more interested in your pedigree than your ability, and that's different. But in my experience, man, you even in managerial positions, the field of IT is about what do you know and what can you do, and then historically, what have you done, right? And so in those areas, when you're talking about management, leading teams, leading projects, being able to motivate people, leadership, all that kind of stuff, these are skills that are acquired over time. A degree does not certify your ability to manage. You know what it certifies your ability to manage? Management. And so at the end of the day, to get into those positions, you have to have had a track record of success. Number one, doing the job of the people that you're going to be managing, and then number two, you got to be able to have some other skills that are outside of the area of the actual thing that you'll be doing. So, communication skills is a huge one. Leadership skills is a big one. Project management skills, another big one. And these things aren't things you learn overnight. They are developed over time. And leaders, everyone isn't a
Hold
leader.
on, hold on. Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. So one brother said, if you're not black, you can get that, but if you're black, that's not the case. Now,
Man, let me tell you
before you
something.
start, let me start. Before you start, let me say this. I
Man,
have worked for many a black person in this industry. Most of the time, we just aren't in the industry. It's just not enough of us in this industry. But if you have shown a track record of being good at what you do, I've worked with people that wear tennis Jordans and basketball shorts to work, that are managers, that know what they're doing, that work from home, that work IT people. If you're good in IT, race isn't as important. It just isn't. It comes down to, are you good? If
man,
that's
let
the
me
case,
tell
I
you
got students that have drove Uber, that worked at call centers, that weren't cut from a certain pedigree. They were black, and they walked in, and me myself walking in off the streets, getting $35, $40 my first job. That's how I did it. Go ahead, Sean.
let me tell you something, brother. Anybody that starts the conversation with that, I'm telling you, they have a limited mindset, and I would disassociate myself from a person that thinks that way as quickly as possible. And it's not always their fault. These are things that we say in the black community. Oh, them white folks ain't gonna let you do X, Y, Z. It's ridiculous. Let me tell you something, man. I've hired more black women for corporations in leadership roles and in very high paying salaries than anybody else. And the reality is I've interviewed thousands. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. Thousands of people. And companies want to make money. We have a problem in our community where we have made everything about racism. Racism is this all omnipotent God that impacts every aspect of life. And when you start life and when you try to live your life through that lens, you will limit yourself before you even get out the gate. So it's very hard to get people to break that kind of mentality because it makes them comfortable with their current status quo. If they say, "Oh, them white folks ain't gonna let me do this," these white folks, then oh, because I'm black, this, that, and the third. Well, then now you don't have to try. Now you don't have to exert any energy to be amazing. You know what I mean? To be better than everybody else. You don't have to do anything because you got an out. You got a scapegoat. And so, man, people like that, I feel sorry for them because they're trapped in their own mind in a reality that, and I'm not saying there's no injustice out there and there's no, those things that we live in the world, man. The world is evil. The world is, there's all kind of chaos and uncertainty in it. It takes courage just to walk out your door every single day. So that's not my point. The point is, if you allow that reality to limit the way you view and the way you operate, you're already done. You're a goner. You will be limited in your income. You will be limited in your experiences. You will be limited in every aspect of your life because you've allowed that thought process to dominate, and that's really unfortunate. I wish
And
they had more.
go ahead.
I wish they had more experiences around what's real, man. I've hired so many black people, and I'll tell you who I hired more than in terms of development jobs. I hire many people from India who are not even American citizens, who can't even speak the language, who live 20 people to an apartment. And the reason they get the job, even though they can't speak English and they can't, culturally, socially fit in or any of that kind of stuff. And they would say, some people would say they smell funny or different, right? They smell like curry and all that. It's a different experience, but they get the job. And you know why? Because they can do the work. That's the bottom line.
So let me say this, and that's the thing. I think I was on a panel with some brothers, and they said that middle management positions are not okay. Let me charge it for you. Go back in the room. Okay. There was some brothers in middle. They say you will not get those upper and middle management positions because of that. Because of not because you're black, but because oh, okay. And the number they said, the brother sent me a link and said that they wanted 150. They would give you 150,000 base plus incentives, upwards of like 75, 80,000 in incentives. But they said those jobs they required masters. What I feel is that a master's look, man, I ain't trying to be fair. I can go get an MBA in probably about 9 months to a year at Faulkner University in Montgomery. Real easy. Or I can go to Phoenix online. But you talked about it depends also as far as the pedigree. Stop, son. If you have a MBA from Harvard, it's different than somebody that has an MBA from, Joe Blow's community college online. So could you speak to that and let me get this boy together? Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, look, the reality is if you're working at a job and you're gunning for a position at this particular company, and they say, hey, for you to get that position, you got to go and get a master's degree. If they're willing to pay for it or subsidize it in any kind of way, hey, maybe you should do that if that's something that you really want to do. But to say that across the board, positions like that are only reserved for people who have college educations is just simply not true. It isn't. And so again, that's one of those another limiting mindsets. Now, can you show me job descriptions where it says that? Absolutely. And this is what people don't understand about job descriptions. Job descriptions are usually written by people in HR who have nothing to do with the position. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a job description that a company has want me or one of my teams to recruit for, and I've had to go back to them and say, look, we're going to rewrite this job description because this isn't even what you told me you're looking for. And the requirements that you have in here will severely limit your candidate pool and give the wrong impression of the job. So we're going to completely rewrite this job description for you. And by the way, we're going to take out this requirement for a college education. And they don't have a problem with it. And so at the end of the day, that's something that's a reality. Hey, I got a meeting I got to prepare for here in just a moment. But I wanted to maybe we can jump back on for a part two or something like that. But I have a meeting I got to jump into.
Yeah, I'm here, man. Sorry about that.
Did you hear that? I got a meeting I got to jump into, but maybe we can do a part. Maybe we can do a part two. Okay.
Okay, no problem, brother. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Right.
Yeah. All right, bro. Thank you. I just wanted you guys to get it from the horse's mouth. This brother, get your butt back over there. Yeah. So, guys, I want you to hear from the horse's mouth. As you can see, I gotta put some hands to a butt right quick. But you guys have a good one, and thank you. Why are you coming?